Welcome to another episode of Penetrate Radio. I'm here with Layla Matthews. We are going to talk about something a little edgy today, a little controversial. We want to talk about what are we calling it? There's this male female online war brewing, like major.
Feel that there is a civil war a brewing. I feel that it's happening. I am seeing the signs of patience snapping and increased tensions and outbreaks of increased violence. I sense it. I feel it. I see it on the wind.
Yeah, I see a lot of like women hating on men, men hating on women, and I haven't really gone into the fray yet at all. I have an amazing husband, and I have no complaints about him. I have sons, I have a brother, I have a dad. I'm really close to all of them. So I've been kind of watching this play out, but I see it. I see things.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I think is very interesting about it is the sort of no holds barred um uh tone of the discourse. Like, I can tell that people are just like, hey, guess what, I've been thinking it for a long time and I'm just going to say it now. And speaking the truth, just saying the hard stuff that's been on their mind. And it's too much. It's a lot of truth. It's a lot of honesty to choke down. I think that's what I'm trying to say. I see that there is an increased willingness to be honest about the hostilities. I think these hostilities, in fact, I know in my bones that the hostilities have been present for a long time. Something's not right in the way that we've organized society, that it's not been right. The hostilities have been present, but it's coming out into the open. We're being honest. I think what I'm trying to say is we're being honest. So I don't want to come at this like with the attitude of like we shouldn't be being hostile, because I think that the first step is this like, okay, I'll show you what I really think. I'm going to tell you what I really think. And it's painful. This is how I really see you. And it's coming from both sides. And nobody's really liking what they're seeing. Yeah, nobody's liking what they're seeing and what they're hearing.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I wanna dive right in because I have kind of like this I've been in a place of I'm just gonna name it judgment. I've been having some judgments about the, like, spiritual bro culture. Mainly I'm talking about, like, men creating, like, spiritual platforms for geared towards men, where a lot of it, to me, looks like it's men trying to, like, sell men on looking and seeming and coming off and becoming, like, more masculine. And, like, there's a lot of, like, masculinity signaling, and to me, like, signaling masculinity is not masculine. So it's like this feminized masculinity. It's, like, all about the image of coming off as masculine. And to me, I don't think that it's helping because looking at this from the shadow perspective, like, this is a podcast about shadow alchemy. Everybody has a masculine and a feminine side, like, internally, and I think that men are threatened by their own femininity, and I think that integrating that is actually, like, a core piece that, like, is required or that would facilitate just, like, them feeling more confident in their masculinity, and and then, like Layla said earlier, we were talking about this, there's this kind of projection, like, they're offended by their own femininity, and then I think it's getting projected onto women.
The threat of the femininity within is occurring as the threat coming from the feminine without. Yeah, and
Exactly.
it becomes even more shadowy because the masculine is not supposed to be afraid, is not supposed to be intimidated, is not supposed to feel that way, small in the face of the feminine. So it hates that it feels that way, which makes it even more hateful. right? Like, it can't even like, the threat and the fear can't even be felt, honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I do wanna just chime in and say that I, as a you know, s as someone who has failed very miserably at performing femininity my whole life, I also see that there are many, female spiritual entrepreneurs who are trying to, help poor souls such as me learn how to be more feminine. I also look at that and question, like, what are the unspoken things that we're taking for granted about what femininity is in that too? You know what I mean? So,
I mean,
like, what I
yeah.
see is a big polarization of the masculine feminine thing, which is, like, so interesting because we're also in this time with non-binary and, like, gender non-conforming people and trans identity being very important in the zeitgeist. There's this simultaneous polarization of what it means to be a man or a woman while we're trying to, like, work in the middle. But then sometimes I see people who are working in the middle being very, very influenced in their thinking by these super strong, highly polarized concepts of those things. Do you know what I mean? So, like,
Yeah.
there's a high voltage tension here.
There is this meta arc where culturally we have become very fixated on gender in general. Like we are collectively getting off on this polarity right now. There are so many polarities at play all the time, and some of them are really fucking interesting. And collectively, we have been really kind of like mesmerized by the male female polarity. And, a lot of people are realizing that gender is like very fluid.
I think that's maybe what's, like, somewhat concerning about the spiritualization of the masculine and the feminine, because they're social constructs. They're social notions that we're then we're projecting our social notions onto the timeless and immaterial spiritual realm. And of course, all of what's here comes from there, so those things are in there. It's not like we made it up from nothing, but, like, the ways that we have it crystallized, it's not true in the sense that, like, spiritual truth is true. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, and I also wanna say, people talk so much about, like, traditional gender roles, and
Mhm.
my husband has, like, a really big criticism of this because he points out that our concept of traditional gender roles are basically taken from, like, a teeny tiny, totally arbitrary moment in time that was unlike any other period of time. Like, that is actually we call it traditional as if it's, like, the natural setting for humans, like, that's the way that it's supposed to be because, like, it used to be that like men worked and women stayed home with the kids and all, and that was like a weird blip in history, and it was so teeny tiny compared to the whole history of humanity where that was not the way that people actually lived. Like he
And
like
and
my
there
he's a
isn't
historian,
one
so
way that people actually live, you know what I mean? Like, it's
right.
even silly to say that isn't the way that people lived because there is no way that people live at
Right,
all.
right. There have been so many different ways that these roles have looked and the ways that like male and female have like it worked together and been in community together and been
Yeah,
in
I mean,
families together.
look at this. I mean, and that's even just talking about humans and human history. But if you look at nature and the spiritual teachings of nature, and you look at, sexual dimorphism and male and female, and you see there's a lot of different ways that that goes down. A lot of different ways. So, what do you mean this is the way that the feminine and the masculine relate to each other? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
there's so many ways that they can interact with each other because they are fundamental polarities that contain so much richness within them and have that yin yang. They are the masculine and feminine, the male and female are, in my opinion, a fundamental yin yang thing, but that means that they're such deep, rich concepts that actually give birth to and contain and, like, terminate in one another. So, like, what are we doing by, like, just our Western world, or, like, yeah, the way that our current minds think, like, does this thing with polarity where we, like, try to separate them as far as possible from one another and make the distinction really clear. And I'm just really appreciating the, yin yang symbol for like, no, that's how polarities actually are. They're super intimate and deeply interconnected and entwined, and sometimes they turn into one another.
Yeah, and I feel like the only, like, truly spiritualized way to hold this is to recognize that, like, the full spectrum of all of that exists within each of us, within every psyche, within
Right.
every, like,
Whole.
every
Every
whole.
whole unit contains both of those in equal measure.
Yeah, and so in dividing ourselves up and othering whichever one we don't identify with, we are othering ourselves, and then we're creating this, like, conflict, this tension, and there
Is
needs to be this, like,
honesty.
truth moment. Yeah, this,
Yeah.
like, coming to truth moment.
You know what? That reminds me of a personal story of mine from back in my hippie girl days. Should I tell it?
Yeah, please.
Wow, I was so passionate back then. Okay, so I was at a gathering called Village Fire, and it was, it was like a weekend long singing camp. And one of the sessions was there was a men's singing circle and a women's singing circle. And for the first time that year, there was also a non binary singing circle. So we were all covered. Everybody had a place that they could go. And the ritual that we were all going to participate in after this was done was that we were all going to we were each group was going to sing a song to the other group as we walked towards each other across a field. So cool. What a beautiful ritual. Anyway, so I'm in the women's tent, and people are people are just sharing songs that they know about femininity. And I'm sitting there and I'm singing along and I'm having fun. But it gets, like 45 minutes in, and I just can't help but notice that these are all songs about like mothering and nurturing and gentleness and sweetness and like Mother Earth and how she loves and cares for us. And it's coming upon me now. But I just remember sitting there and just getting really, really agitated. And I knew from my experience of sitting in Quaker meeting that I had to testify about what was moving through my body. And so I stood up and I said, "You know what? There is a lioness stalking around this tent, and she is wondering why she doesn't get to come in here and why there are no songs about her and how strong and how vicious and how dangerous she is. And I think that while there are still women being raped and children being hurt at the hands of men, that we need to be very clear that we have teeth and we have claws and we will protect ourselves. We are not helpless." And that tent went crazy. There was a just explosion of fuck yes, I am so glad somebody said that. And there was suddenly drums and there was tambourines and there was, ululations and shrieking. And somebody was like, "I know a song for this." So we all started singing the Kali Ma chant, and we were in a serious Kali Ma frenzy. And I was like, yes, we did it. We're representing the fullness of the feminine now. Now we're actually having a women's circle. Now we're not lying about who we are. So anyway, the organizers of the women's circle got mad at me because things got very passionate. And they especially got mad because the majority of the women were like, "We don't want to sing a sweet song of reconciliation with these men because they don't even know how angry we are. We haven't been honest with them." So anyway, we ended up singing our Kali Ma song to them first and just displaying this ferocity first. And then we were able to complete the ritual. Then we were able to get it done and be honest and repair. And so I just think something like that is a brewing. on a collective level, and I think that's the tone, the, like, energy that I felt in that tent when I spoke up. I feel a lot of that energy in the comments that are coming from women just being like, "The caricature that you're painting of us is wrong, and we've been doing the world a favor by upholding the caricature that we all know in our spirit is inaccurate, but the dam is gonna break. We cannot lie about who we are forever." Do you know what I mean, Lucy?
Yeah, I mean, I it's so funny. I had real goosebumps when you were telling that. A
Right?
lot, like multiple
Yeah,
rounds of goosebumps because
me too.
yeah, I feel that, and, we're both mothers. We're both mothers of multiple children.
I have 3 sons. I didn't grow up with
Yeah,
brothers. I only have sisters and a dad, or, but I have 3 sons.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I like boys. I always have liked boys. I'm into boys, Like, that's one of the reasons why I probably learned how to act like a boy so I could gain access to boy spaces, because I like being around boys.
Yeah, I mean, I have 3 daughters and 2 sons, and my one of my daughters is by far my most ferocious child. I mean, she is so ferocious. But I think all of this to me is funny because, as you know, Layla, you've heard me tell, like, I was raised in a very unconventional way where my mom was really the father figure and my dad was really the mother figure. And so I never got the whole gender role thing, like, I've just been learning about it from the out people telling me about it from the outside world, but, like, that was not my lived experience,
Mhm.
and that was very natural. That felt very natural to me. My mom is a very, like, in charge, like, in control, assertive, powerful, like, don't fuck with her. She's fucking scary. Like, she scared the shit out of my friends, you know? And my dad would, like, tell me what to wear and rearrange the furniture, and you know what I mean? Like, it was just so that was what was normal to me, looking at this, and I said at the beginning, like, I'm really close with, like, my dad and my brother, and my dad is gay now, and my brother is gay, and my husband is, like, really integrated his feminine, so none of them give a fuck about their masculinity or femininity. Like, they're just I feel like all of these men who I'm closest to are just very like, comfortable in who they are, and they're just very fluid in who they are. That's why I look at it and I'm like, I do feel like, to me, as somebody who's in the world of shadow alchemy, I see there is a conflict in men around their own femininity because I can tell you, like, you and I, Layla, we're integrated in our masculinity and femininity. I am a very fluid person. And so I don't have all this, like, gender conflict, you know? And I really do think that it's normal and natural to, like, face our own like, how we're so multitudinal, you know? And I think we
Yeah.
all at some point have to, like, face that about ourselves and integrate, and I'm not trying to, like, point the finger at men because
Yeah.
there's so
Well,
much here.
I wanna say, I guess, yeah, I think you're right on the money that there's just been a lot of offloading the counter sexual shadow onto the other, right? Like Jungian calls it like anima or animus projection, where, anyway, I'm just gonna assume that everybody who's listening to that podcast knows what I mean when I say that. That's clearly what is going on. And we need to take responsibility. Well, I think one thing that would help would be if we all did a bit of historical and forensic account taking about our part in collectively and socially projecting the shadow of our own whatever, internal whatever, onto the other. Like, I remember when I first got into existential kink and people were in, the Facebook forums talking about, like, I just really don't know how to get off on something as horrible as, like, the violence of the patriarchy. I just really don't know how to do that. And, I sat with it for a while and I was just like, I cannot live with the idea of women being fully blameless victims in that all going down. I just really can't, because I can absolutely understand the, like, and you know what? I think the best, like, we all know it happens because there's a lot of discourse in, like, the political world and the social justice world about how white women, like, support their men to do the violence that protects their families. And women like to be like, "Oh, well, we didn't pull the trigger. We're not the ones in the uniforms. We're just helpless." But they're feeding their man when they get home, and they're helping him put on his uniform, and they're, supporting him to go commit that violence. Do you know what I mean? Like, I can see how women may have in the past wanted to wash their hands, not get their hands dirty of the yucky, violent, hard stuff. Only men are supposed to die for the society. Only men are supposed to get hurt for society. Only men are supposed to fight. We couldn't possibly. And then now, hundreds of years later, we're mad that they're super violent. I mean, rightfully, we didn't want that. That's not what we wanted. Obviously, we don't just have to be like, "Oh, well, it's our fault," but, like, we need to understand that this is a co-created issue. There's a participation. There's a benefit in projecting it. And same with men. Same with men. Men get to be like, "Oh, all this taking care of kids and doing laundry and having emotional sensitivity, that's girl stuff. I don't need to have any of that." Well, then what's the consequence for them? They have horrible relationships with their family. They don't know how to take care of themselves. You know what I mean? Like, it goes both ways. Everyone's doing that, you know?
Yeah.
And then they're mad because they don't know, they can't survive without having to take care of some woman and she's not doing it good enough. It's like, bro, why don't you learn? You're not man enough to do that stuff? Then pay the price. You know what I mean? Like, we're all complicit. And I think that's the tone of, like, the discourse that feels sad. Like, I'm appreciative of the honesty where it's like, "I hate you now. I hate what you have become." I basically feel like that's what people are saying over and over online, screaming across the gender void, just screaming, "I hate what you've become. I used to love you, and I hate what you've become." And it's painful.
Yeah, because there's a grief under that.
100% because we love
Because
each
we do
other.
love each other.
Because
Yeah.
we love each other. The truth is that we love each other, and we're both
Yeah.
really sad. We're all sad, and we're
Mhm.
all hurt. And I really wanna say that, I have definitely, as a woman, I have been more aware, of the, like, social hurts and social violence and injustice done towards women. But I remember my, mentor and teacher, the departed Dr. Robert, sharing about how, like, he was in the military, and he was just like, "It's the most horrific thing that we do to young men. We just we act like their lives are worth nothing. We act like they are just cannon fodder. We don't even think twice." I mean, we like put on, we honor our veterans and we honor the armed forces, and we're grateful for it, but, like, those individuals are sacrificed. They are sacrificed. They are unconsciously understood to be non-essential in their living. And that's really, really, really sad. Like, can you imagine? That's sad. I understand that pain. Like, I get that. I can be empathetic to that. And that doesn't mean that I excuse all the other stuff, but I'm willing to love even the person who has been hurting me because I see that they are also hurt, and that's likely where it's coming from. Also, on this topic, I really recommend the Netflix documentary A Gorilla Story by David Attenborough. There's just a tremendous amount on this topic to be digested by watching the gorillas. So that's my plug for my
Yeah.
current favorite documentary.
There's just so much here because we were talking about this before we even started the podcast. And what you're reminding me, or what I'm realizing in this moment, is like, I do think I'm always thinking about practically, like, what do we do about it? What do we do with this? And to
Mhm.
me, it feels like the way that we come to peace within ourselves, because under anger, it's always grief. It's always grief
Always,
under anger. And so
always.
it's like our work as whoever we are is to let ourselves feel the grief that's underneath the anger, because when we digest the grief, when we feel the grief, that's how we can sort of release the anger. You know, the anger is just the outer crust, and then underneath that is this sadness that we feel. And so when we let ourselves feel the sadness, that's how we can heal it and move through it for ourselves. And then, you know, when we all do that collectively, that's how we heal together. And then we can come back together with more honesty and more integrated and from a place of, you know, valuing each other because
Yeah,
men
and
are
not
really valuable.
very.
They fucking build shit. They're, like, strong. They
Do you know I listen, I'm a girl who works out, and I go to the gym, and I just look at the men, and I'm like, "Not fair. Not fair." You know? But, like, thank you. So, like, thank you. We need you, you know?
Yeah, dude, they're they're fucking strong, mother
They're
like,
strong. They're vicious animals. They're vicious animals, but honestly, so are we. I'm not gonna lie, I'm a vicious animal too. Humans are vicious animals. We both are, you know? What I like about men most, can I say what I like about men most? I think men are really fun. I think men are more fun than women, to be honest, in their spirit. I think women are actually much more serious by nature and more like, Okay, but what are we going to do to live like for another 5 to 10 years? And I feel like men, honestly, in reality, are much more present and in the moment. Like, I think my husband and all of my children's fathers are way more fun parents than me. And not because they're like not doing stuff around the house, they're also contributing, but like they just have a fun. They just have like a funness to them that I don't have.
dude, my husband is so much more fun with me. I mean, we went to Costco this weekend. He's literally riding around on the thing, just like, "Woo!" Like, having a great like,
Yeah.
he's like a child.
I mean, I know, like, I understand these grumpy alpha men who are trying so hard to, like, be this guy. Why they're so grumpy is because that's not fun, and I think their essence is fun. I think their essence is joy and delight, you know? I wanna see them do more fun stuff. I wanna see them have more I wanna release them from the burden of thinking that they're responsible for everything because it's clearly making them miserable.
Like, I'm not even denying that women, we do like to be held. We do like containment, you know? I
Yeah,
do wanna feel safe with my man. And also,
100,000%.
there are some ways I'm gonna be really honest, I love it when my husband tells me what to do. Like, I just really fucking like it. I delight in it. Like, he comes in here and sometimes, actually, if I think I'm doing something wrong, then I don't like it.
Impression that you've been corrected. You don't like that.
Well, like, if I know
Who
that I'm doing
does?
something naughty, like, I'm,
Oh,
you know, watching something and it's late and he's like, you know,
go to bed.
then I'm like,
Then you
ugh.
feel
But, like,
scolded.
he'll come into my office and he'll be like, "You haven't eaten your lunch yet." And even in those moments, like, I will literally say, "God, I just, like, love it when you tell me what," because I do, I like that. I like that because to me, it's like he cares so much. He, like, wants to make sure that I'm liking my food because he fucking cares, and I feel so, like, loved and held when he tells me what to do. Um, and he will not tolerate nagging from me, but, like, I like it when he does. It's a whatever, that's just our dynamic, but,
That's your
like,
dynamic.
there's certain things where, like, I actually need to kind of, like, lead, you know? Like, we take turns leading. You
Yes.
can't this whole idea that men have
Mm.
to take it all on, and they have to be in charge, and they have to lead, like, you
No,
are missing the plot, dude. Like, women are so fucking capable, just like men. There's the idea that, like, men are the ones that know that
well,
they
totally. Yeah, I mean, for sure. I just think about all the smart and strong and, whatever men have been, like, lauded for in their lives. And I just think to myself, like, okay, well, genetics plays a big role in that. So my guess is that if you've got a lot of that going on, then your mom's line probably also had a lot of that going on. So if you're brilliant and strong and assertive, I'm going to guess that you probably come from a double parentage of strong, assertive, intelligent people. But we don't value them equally in, you know what I mean? Like, it's just I just see how much, like, these, like, super alpha males must be coming from super alpha females. Where else do they come from? You know what I mean? You can't That's where they all
Yeah,
come from. You
yeah.
You know what I mean? You're like, you get it from somewhere and it's not just your dad. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Do you know there's something really interesting? Did you know that men have, like, way more genetic diversity than women?
No, I
So,
did not know that.
yeah, there's a lot more genetic diversity between men than there is between women. Like, women are
Is that
more
because of the
alike.
Y chromosome? Is that because of the Y chromosome? Because there's more diversity in the Y?
Maybe,
Because
it
that's the
must be
only
because
one that
that's
would be different.
yeah,
Because that's the
yeah,
only one that they don't
yeah.
share.
But, like, in terms of, like, IQ, like, they really span a much broader range, and in terms of just, like, traits in general. Yeah, and so there's a lot more, like, diversity and, like, potential, like, outliers. That's why there are more, like, extreme male outliers, which isn't to say
Mhm.
that there aren't female outliers because of course there are, but, like,
Mm.
there's more genetic diversity between men, so you do end up with more outliers, but being an outlier is
It's a
rare no
broader
matter what.
curve. It's a broader
Exactly.
curve.
Exactly.
Interesting.
And I'm not talking
Wow,
just
interesting.
intelligence, just in terms of, like,
No, no, yeah.
height and, like, everything. Yeah, it's kind of
Interesting.
interesting. Yeah, but, like, when you think about that, it's like everybody's different. And this is my thing too,
Yeah.
is, like, everybody is an individual. You have to take people as an individual, and I feel like we get really into these generalizations,
Oh,
especially with this gender stuff where it's like,
100%.
men have to, like, be in charge, and, like, what if you are
Women have to
yeah.
submit. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
like, actually what you need is a
100%.
matching puzzle piece of somebody who, like, can lead in the places where you don't have the same vision, and then, like, has the complementary skills and brings sort of complementary competencies to the table, like, that's what you want. You want
Right,
somebody
exactly. There's
who you
totally yes. You're so brilliant. You're so brilliant. Yes, it's like we're trying to be like there's a white puzzle piece and a black puzzle piece, but there's actually two gray puzzle pieces that have different interlocking options at different they have different docking stations, and that's what you want. And
yeah.
that can come in a lot of packages.
Yeah, because some women are actually just very dominant. And like, I was talking about my mom. Like, my mom, it would be very messy if she was with a man who felt like he had to take charge all the time. That would not work. Like, my mom is a very dominant person. And like, it's just, I don't it would be so much conflict, so much tension, you know? Like, she needs to be with a man who is, like, happy to kind of just, like, be on the ride and is, like, very chill and laid back and
Yeah, and
like,
probably helps
happy
her
to let her.
relax, helps her enjoy life. She needs to be provided for in the sense of, "Do you need to take a break right now?" Like, you know, "Are
Yeah,
you
and there are
alright? Are
certain
you taking
domains
on too
where, like
much?"
yeah, there are certain domains where her husband does, like, take charge, and it's like, in this area, he's in charge, and it swaps, but, like, she can't do that all the time. That's just never gonna work for her. You know what I mean? So I'm just saying, like
I think no person can. I don't think there's any person who is, like, wholly submissive
yeah, but there
or
are women, like,
wholly dominant.
yeah, and we've worked with people who are on kind of, in our even just in our courses, who are on different ends of the extreme. Like, we've worked with people who, like, really are very assertive and it's very natural for them. And so they wanna be with a partner, like, they match better with a partner who is more, like, along for their ride. And then we've had women in our programs who enjoy being in a more submissive role, and that really, like, opens things for them. And I think it's just yeah. Anyways, we're just all fucking individuals.
And we yeah, and, like, nobody's wrong there. Nobody's wrong there. And,
Yeah, and I
like
think that's what's so weird is all of this, like, alpha male whatever shit that I see on the internet is, like, telling men, like, "You have to be this way."
or you're
And
doing it wrong.
yeah. Yeah, and I do think this is where also, culturally I was saying earlier how, men, like, I think that it would really help them to, like, integrate their feminine side, and, like, that would help them actually just be able to be more, like, truly masculine. Um, and, I do think part of that is, like, culturally, I don't know about you, but my experience of growing up was, like, it is way more socially acceptable for a girl to be masculine than a boy to be feminine.
Yes,
Like
I would yep. Yeah, well, because in the unconscious or conscious thinking, there's a hierarchy, and so being male is good, female not as good. So if you're a female who's performing maleness, okay. I mean, you shouldn't really, you like, don't forget that you aren't really, but like, okay, we tolerate this, but with this, that's why would you degrade yourself like that? Why would you embarrass yourself like that?
Yeah. I remember, like, hearing,
Sad.
like, friends' dads being like, "Don't be a girly boy," and, like, shit like that. Like, that's so shitty, you know?
It's so
And so we
shitty.
do have to take that into consideration. Like, I feel like here we can empathize with these men who that's what their dads were telling them, you know? And then you have a lot of women whose parents were like, you know, you have to be composed, and you have to be this, and you have to smile, and you have to be
Don't get
likable, and
dirty. Don't get
yeah.
dirty. Look nice. Be agreeable. Smile.
Mhm. Be pretty.
Yeah. Anyway,
So we're
I'm
all just
I'm
doing our
appreci
best.
I'm appreciative of the honesty. I think that's the best I can say for now is that I'm glad that we're coming to this level of honesty and just saying I hate what you've become. And it's really sad for me because there was a time when I really loved you. And honestly, I still love you, and that's why I'm still pissed because I haven't actually given up fully. You know what I mean? I feel that's what I'm holding in my heart. I hear, like there's the 4B movement in Korea, and I definitely hear more of that where, the 4B movement is something like no marrying men, no dating men, no having children with men, no living with men or something like that. Like some women have just given up and said, I'm not participating in this anymore. In which case, I hope that those women have a lot of peace. I really do. I hope that decision like ends the conflict within and we're good. We can move on. We've let it go. But I just think collectively, I don't think we really can let it go wholly. We just can't.
Yeah. I feel like personally, I want to, like, support women in whatever they wanna do. Like, I'm pretty team women, but I'm really attached to my husband and my children. So I'm just like, that's just my truth, is I feel like, I guess, and maybe people would look down on that, but, like, I feel very attached to that. I mean, that's, like, what I spend most of my time, like, that's my happy place, is, like, with my family. And so but everybody has their own happy place, and so I would never wanna, like, take that somebody else's happy place from them or say that it's, like, wrong. And I certainly don't think that all women need to have a man or children to be happy, like, no fucking way at all do I believe that. And so I feel like it's just really important to literally just fucking let people be who they wanna be and do what they wanna do.
Yeah, I agree. I think part of what feels yucky is that there is an undisputable power imbalance where just first off on a biological Malthusian factual level on the broad statistical whole men are bigger, stronger, more powerful, faster than women. They just are. They're a more dangerous animal on the whole, statistically. Obviously, you can find individual pairings where that's not true, but on the whole, that's a fact, and we can't deny the facts. And then secondly, we've had many centuries of, social hierarchy that gives men greater access to power and credibility, both systematically and in the unconscious biases of human beings. And so, there is I personally think there is a greater responsibility on men as a whole to get their shit together
I agree.
because because they are holding all of the power. Who could stop them? I mean, obviously we could, but what I'm saying is like if they really want to be the leaders that they say that they are, they must go first in in this reconciliation because they are more dangerous. They have more access to power. And that's just, and until that changes, the responsibility is on them. And they are the ones that's going to have to dismantle that for themselves, I truly believe, once they realize that it makes them miserable. Again, I highly recommend watching Gorilla Story for more on this fascinating topic and the responsibility of men to other men to help them learn to act right. Because I know for a fact, I love my husband. He's a good and well-intentioned man, but that unconscious bias seeps in and I can tell him things And he'll be like, "Okay, I'll think about that." And then a man that he admires tells him the exact same thing, and he's like, "Oh, guess that's really true now." And does that piss me the fuck off? Absolutely. Absolutely it does. But I am pragmatic enough to say that, okay, if that's the way it works, then we need the good men. We need the good men to get on the line with the crappy ones and tell them the truth because they'll listen to you. They'll listen to you. They don't listen to it when we say it. Not yet.
Mhm, mhm.
They haven't learned to listen yet, you know? So
Yeah.
that's why I just do think that, yeah, obviously, clearly I have skin in the game in Team Women, but also just I think even if I were a man, if I was thinking logically, I would have to come to the same conclusion because it doesn't make sense otherwise.
I am so with you. I feel like you're making really, really good points. I do the one, like, it is very true what you're saying. I personally, like, grew up having grown up in the scenario that I did where my mom was so dominant, and then I didn't know that there was, like, gender inequality, and my experience of life was that I could just seduce men and get them to do whatever I wanted, and I do wanna just remind my lady friends out there, men are stronger. That is objectively true. They do have more access to power. That is objectively true, and also we have so much fucking power over men because we have
Absolutely.
fucking pussies and they want pussies, okay?
Well, but they
So
will
don't
take
ever
it by
forget that.
force. But they will
What?
take it by force. They will take it by force. And
Yeah,
actually,
so
I'm glad you said this
that's fair.
because you know what? I want to say one thing, and this is a controversial hot take. I actually really think that one of the worst projections, one of the worst cultural projections and falsities that we have going on is that men are all about sex and women are not. That men are the sexually oriented gender more. I think women are the sexually oriented gender, and this is borne out by research that shows that in convents versus monasteries, there's way, way, way more sex going on between the nuns than there is between the brothers. Okay? So sex is a more primary need for females than it is for males, and I think we're really missing the point and not getting it. And I guess the final thing I want to say about this is that rape is not about sex, it's about power. And I think projecting the sexuality onto men is it, it it's coming from the feminine shadow that wants to use men to impregnate themselves. We are projecting our own we're projecting our own, like, snake pussy desire to consume them onto them. I'm
And have
100% sure
power
of that.
over them.
That's not to
And have
say that 100%, but that's not to say that men don't use, reproduction to abuse women. 100%, it goes both ways. But I really feel that this is a huge misunderstanding, and I think it's part of the root of the problem.
well, I think that's very insightful, and I'm gonna have to think about it. Um, but I just and yeah, I think that we're all sexual creatures unless you're
And no
not.
one's powerless. And no
Yeah.
one's powerless, I think, to your
But
point.
I
Nobody's
have been able to
powerless.
use seduction to have power over men very effectively in my life, and also, um, wasn't always doing that from the healthiest place, if I'm being honest, and have also been, sexually assaulted by different people in different ways, very bad ways in some cases, and so, it's all fucking happening, and
And there's no universal victim. Like, I guess the universal victim is humanity at large.
yeah.
Like, if we wanna identify a victim, it's humanity at large, and oopsie, the perpetrator is also us.
I mean, I had this, like, really intense experience recently remembering something that happened to me, that, I guess trigger warning, like, I was drugged and I woke up with somebody inside of me, and I was just, like, somebody that I never would have, like, it was 100% force or whatever, drugged, and
Coercion.
I just had this, like, moment of, like, "Holy fucking shit," like, that was a basically, he was a child. He was a, like, teenage boy, and I kind of just had this epiphany of, like, wow, that must have fucked him up. And I'll tell you what, I'm fucking fine. I'm fine. I've fucking healed and integrated that shit. Like, so fucking like, it's not there's no trigger there for me. I mean, I could just say it. There's no trigger there for me anymore at all. But, like, that must have fucked him up. And I do feel like young men do shit that, like, breaks a piece of them.
Psychically damages them. I mean, it's part of the evil indoctrination into the cult of patriarchal maleness. They have to harm themselves to gain access to it. And a lot of them didn't want to, but they didn't feel that they had a choice. And at a certain point, like, those are our own sons and our own brothers and our own fathers, and we have to feel like we can hold them accountable, but we have to, like, they need love. Like, that's it. I you know?
Yeah. 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 But interesting take, Layla. I like what you were saying about, like, I don't know. There is this weird thing where, like, I don't remember the exact statistics, but I've seen some, like, YouTube videos about this, um, and so, allegedly, like, 85% of the people on, OnlyFans are, like, married men, and OnlyFans, I mean, there's a lot of, like, very young women on there.
Oh, yeah. There's no question that, a lot of men are behaving badly. Yeah, I guess there's a part of me there's no doubt that men are captivated by sex. No doubt. That's why you have been so successful in your life at using sex for power, because there's no question that they're captivated by it. But, like, I think driven by it, I don't think they're as driven by it as we like to project that they are. I don't think
I
so.
think
And
yeah.
I think the cheating, like the like looking at porn, like a lot of them are just like abused from a very young age with content that like they can't look away from. So they have a like addiction to content that's very stimulating for them, but I still don't think it's the same kind of, like, inherent drive.
Well, I will say for me, like, having been in a couple of different situations, I do kind of have this, like, sense or this maybe call it like a fear body around men and their sexuality that, like, they don't have control over it. And I don't necessarily think that that's true, but that it's like the fear of them losing control
Mm.
to their sexual needs that feels threatening to me.
See, what I think is interesting about all of that, though, is that I feel like that loss of control is not loss of control. It's a display of the ability to control. Like, it's not that they're out of control. I don't believe that. I believe that it's a display of controlling ability.
Yeah.
And
I
that's
mean,
one way that it comes out.
if I'm being honest, because I've worked with this in myself, I actually this is a very vulnerable thing to say, but I actually think that I'm projecting my own intensity of desire onto them, because sometimes I feel like I am out of control when I'm in that place, right? When you're, like, really in the moment, it feels you surrender your faculties and you kind of lose control, and I think that I project that onto them, and I imagine that
This
they
is
don't
what I'm
have
saying.
control. Yeah. You're right. Yeah, and, like, I've known I mean, like, talked about this with other people, I know this about myself. Um, and so and also because I do this work, so I understand that if I'm worried about that in someone else, it's really about myself, and when I'm in that moment, I can see how I don't feel like I have total control, you know? And that's the beauty of it. That's the beauty of sex, is you
Yeah.
relinquish control and you, like, are on the fucking ride, and it's fucking amazing. But then that and I think you're right. I think we conflate the power dynamic that is,
Sexual
like,
violence.
sexual violence. Yeah.
Yeah, sexual violence is about violence, not sex. It's emphasis on the violence.
Yeah. We really got into some deep stuff here, Layla.
I think we did. What a fun, light afternoon chat.
I just, it's a big thing that's coming up in a major way. I feel like, what I feel like triggered it was Trump getting elected. And I think a lot of women, to
Well,
me, it looked like,
The Epstein
yeah,
files recently triggered it, and then that news story about the Telegram chat with the men who are drugging their wives and videotaping them, and you don't
I
know about
didn't know.
that? That to me, I think I noticed the snap happen after that came out because it was a Telegram channel of men who were exchanging information with each other on how to safely drug their wives or girlfriends unconscious and then rape them and often videotape it and share it with each other. So that made a lot of women go, I don't know who I'm living with. I don't know if I'm safe in my own home with my own husband, even if he hasn't been beating me up and verbally or financially or psychologically or otherwise abusing me. I don't know anymore. And I think
That
that
would
was
be
the thing that snapped.
that would be horrible to be with a partner that you don't trust. That would be fucking horrible. Yeah.
I think what has happened is that a lot of women have just gone, I bet a lot of these women trust their husbands too,
Mhm.
and they're none the wiser. And
Yeah.
what the fuck? What the actual fuck? That was the Trump getting elected, I think was part of the start.
There
The
was a big
Epstein
thing because
files
a
being
lot more
released
men voted for
and
Trump.
then yeah,
Yeah. A lot of
it's exploding.
was the to me, that looked like the moment of because a lot of women were like, they cut all their hair off. They were like, "I'm not gonna be with men anymore. All of you fuckers voted for Trump. Like, fuck you guys."
Right.
And
Right.
then there was the Epstein thing following on the heels of that. And then when did this thing happen this Telegram thing happen?
This must have come out March, April, recently in
Oh,
the last
like
6 to 8
very
weeks.
recent.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep, yep, yep.
I think so.
Mhm.
I think so. I mean, I'm very bad at citing my sources, but I'm sure that many of you listening at home know what I'm talking about and it's searchable. Um anyway, yeah, I think that's really what did it. I mean, or I mean, obviously it's been a death by 1,000 cuts. You know what I mean? It was an already strained relationship. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Well,
yeah,
things are coming into the
well,
light.
yeah, exactly. I'm glad that we're doing our best to process it in whatever way we have to process it, you know? I'm glad that we're
I think what's fascinating to me about it is, like, in my personal relationships, I'm a very a pro-conflict person. As soon as something comes up, I'm just like, "Let's talk about it, have the conflict, resolve it, and then we can, like, move on stronger, better than before." And my curiosity here, and if I'm being honest, like, a little bit of fear, is how do we do this? Because obviously we're in the conflict moment now. But how do we have a resolution with this, a healthy resolution that we can come together and move on from when it's collective, when there's so many individuals involved? So I don't know how that plays out, and there's I think, a fear that, like, it's too big and it can't be resolved now, but I really want it to resolve because you know what I think? I think I think that there are motherfuckers who are actually doing really shitty stuff, and it's not our fucking neighbors. It's people with so much fucking power. I think there are actual people trying to take away our speech rights and taking us to fucking wars that we don't want. Like, I think there's actual people who are benefiting off of us fighting each other when we're neighbors, and I want us to be on the same team and so that we can stand together.
yeah, I think it was our friend Carolyn who told me that there's some evidence, and I don't know if this is a conspiracy theory, so please take it with a grain of salt, that like Gloria Steinem was working for the CIA when she was like writing for women's magazines, and there's like, some like plot to like sow division in like between the genders and like destroy the integrity of like families such that people are much more dependent on the state and the social programs and are therefore much more compliant and docile as a population. So, and I agree with you. And on a, that's like a political level, but like on a spiritual level, like I can't wait until we become intergalactic beings who can go visit others on their worlds. And I just don't think we're going to get there until we can solve our little domestic squabble. You know what I mean? You
Mhm,
don't get
mhm.
to we're not it's gonna be very embarrassing for us to show up at the Intergalactic Council, like, bickering like that. You know what I mean? Can you imagine?
Yeah, yeah, and honestly, like, when I just put myself in a position, if I was an evil, powerful overlord, which is what we imagine these people to be, and of course they're not, but let's just simplify things because it's fun and makes it easy.
It's the archetype that we're all playing with
Yeah,
there.
that's what I would do,
Right.
and we've seen this in history. This is what they've done throughout history. They turn people on each other so that they stop looking at them. You know, it's very simple. Sow division between the masses, and they'll stop looking at the people who are slowly taking away their rights, slowly picking away at their freedoms.
Yep,
And as an
and
American, I fucking give so many fucks about my fucking freedoms. And I feel like we all need to. I feel like we all should because we take for granted how fucking free we are. We get to say whatever the fuck we want out here on the internet. You know, in England, they've arrested like thousands of people for speech on social media.
wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, fucking scary. Scary. I don't want that happening here.
Well, who knows where we're headed? And we shall see. We shall see. All I can say is I hope we make it to being a cool, integrated, intergalactic species that is like capable of hanging and like reading the room and like having a chill vibe. You know what I mean? I just like so far it's like very embarrassing. The aliens have to come here and like stop us from like setting off nuclear bombs. They have to come and be like, no, no, stop trying to murder everyone on your planet. Bad toddler, can't do that. It's just like very embarrassing for us on an intergalactic level, and I just want us to do better. I just
Yeah, I do feel a little bit like there's the judgy side of me wants to be like, and men are just acting like fucking children. But that's not helpful.
it's not helpful. It's not helpful. They're
Yeah.
hurt. I mean, honestly, they're hurting. That's the only explanation for the way they're behaving is that they're hurting. I can't. I mean, I know what an innocent baby each one of them is born as. You know what I mean? So I just know that they're not fundamentally different.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Okay. This was so fun.
I think we did a good job.
I think we did too. Let us know, dear listener, by reviewing. You can give us a little review.
That.
And yeah, we will see you in the next one. Thank you so much for listening.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to another episode of Penetrate Radio. I have a free guided existential kink practice. If you are somebody who is new to this work, if you're new to EK, if you haven't read the book, if you're just not a reader, or if you need a refresher, you can get this. You can download it right now for free and use it to learn how to do EK and just follow along as a guided practice. It is meant for beginners. So I just want to let you know that that's available, and you can find it at the link in the description. Also, in the link in the description, you can find more information about our membership, Dominion, a field of radical approval. Dominion is less than the cost of a single manicure each month, and it's just a wonderful place to do this work in community. We have seen time and time again that being witnessed and witnessing others in this work is wildly helpful and validating. The last thing I want to mention is that a lot of our guests talk about the coach certification program Penetrate that they went through with myself and Layla. I want to let you know that we are going to be offering that same program again in 2027, and you can find a wait list in that same link if you're interested. In getting information about that when it becomes available. And I think this goes without saying, but if you see anyone else offering a program called Penetrate that is also a coach certification program related to this kind of work, that is absolutely not the same program that Layla and I have taught and that the people in this podcast are talking about when they talk about our coach certification program, Penetrate. So I just wanted to make that super clear. Layla and I share a lot of hard-won wisdom through that program. So if we're not the ones teaching it and offering it, then it is definitely not the same program. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of Penetrate Radio, and I will see you in the next one. Ciao.